Hello and welcome to another episode of the Hughes at 10. It is 10 o'clock. It is the 30th of November, Monday the 30th of November 2020. We're still in second lockdown. It's due to end on Wednesday, I think, but I wouldn't trust anything that came out of Boris Johnson's horrifically deformed mouth. So I just, but I'm going to be doing this till the end of the week. I'm doing this till Friday, and then we'll sort something else out, I think. So I just want to say a quick hi to everyone who's here at the moment. We've got hi, Charlie Nelson. We've got Attila there. Hi, Attila, who's one of my new Patreon community people, supporters. Yeah, you're a supporter. That's really cool. John Barleycorn says, hello, I'm Talkie the Toaster. Want some toast? Red Dwarf reference there. I like that. John Sullivan says, even though Niall says, hit the like. Hit the like. Everyone hit the like. Hit that like. Tom Monk is saying, hi, folks. Chris Kopak is saying, hey, everyone. Sugar Free says, good evening, live stream peeps. David says, howdy. Howdy, David. Chris says, hey, Sugar Free. Daylight Dave says, hey, all. Johan says, hi from Sweden. Yeah, I love Johan from Sweden. He's the best. Tom Monk is saying, I'm just watching a video. I was just watching a video interview of Kim Khalili and Brian Fox. Those dudes are smart. Brian Cox from Manhunter, the actor. No, the other one from DV. I know what you mean. No extra Christmas special. No, well, I might do a Christmas special actually, because I don't know. I was seriously considering doing it this year at Christmas, just to maybe get me out of the room for a bit. Let's put it that way. Evening, everyone. Hope you're well. That's from Christopher Milne. Hi. Nat on 77 says hi from Portugal. Hello. Brexit Central says, is a pickled egg a substantial meal? Well, is this Robert Jenrick who said this? It's one of the goons, wasn't it? And the Tory goons. Nice share. You look vegan. Okay. I'm not, but I have no problem with people who are. Sugar free. It will be in a few months. Okay. It will. Sorry, I'm trying to look what message. Oh, a pickled egg. Yeah, substantial milk. Yes, it will be in a few months. See what you've done there. So today we've had, we had one celebrity, I think it was Rita Ora, was it, who had a party and then said, oh, really sorry about that. Shouldn't have done that. And then you had Lawrence Fox, who I just hate having to say his name because he only does it for publicity. He's the new Haiti Hopkins. He's basically taken over from it. It's like the Master from Doctor Who. It's the same person. They just look different for each, incarnation of this entity, this tapeworm. That has to be in the public eye, has to be completely untalented, has to be someone who went to a private school. That's very important for some reason. And they have to just put out obnoxious stuff that upsets people on social media. And it's not stuff that upsets racists. It's not stuff that upsets pedophiles. It's not stuff that upsets, I don't know, gangsters, criminals, rapists, morons. It's the kind of stuff that upsets people who, I don't know, work in a hospital. And I've seen thousands of people sick with COVID over the last 9 months and has been helping treat them. And I've seen so many people die without their friends and family around them, die on their own, held their hands while they died. And Lawrence Fox is saying, well, I had a party at the weekend. Compliance is violence. He said, oh, what a twat. What a twat. And on that note, loser Fox. Is gammon a substantial meal? Plenty in South Yorkshire. Hey, yeah, and Lincolnshire. But yes, gammon. This is the question I always want to ask. I call up Mystery Hour now and again when I'm feeling mischievous, and I always ask the same question. It's like, if Brexit's really bad, right, and we're forced to eat each other, who would taste best? Meat eaters, vegetarians, or vegans? Hashtag just saying. Anyway, just on Lawrence Fox. So what my plan is, and if someone wants to suggest something, a better plan than this going forward for doing these kind of things, because I can't do them at 10 o'clock every night. It's a bit disruptive. So what would be less disruptive would be for me to do each day 1 hour at 1 p.m. From 1 till 2. And we'll pick up maybe some of the things that have been talked about in LBC that morning, or we could just do our own thing, and it can be a live discussion like this. And then I also want to do a weekly show, which will be a weekly roundup like this at 10 o'clock on Sunday nights. So I was thinking Sunday night, it'd be a good time to do it, GMT. We can have this sort of roundup of the day's events, the week's events. And then also I want to do a little spin-off show, which is just about travel, which is just for Gaz, really. It's just going to be me and Gaz, like chatting away with each other about Vietnam and all the countries that we love. But yeah, so that's the plan at the moment. But like I say, I keep saying this, to be able to do it, I require a little bit of support. Not much, but a little bit of support from the people who are enjoying watching these this month. So if you can go over to the Patreon page, I've stickied the link up at the top. It's the first comment, I think. But if you can do that at the end of the show, I would really, really appreciate it. And while I'm talking about this, I'm just going to give you a lowdown of the people who are sponsoring me on Patreon already. I've got Attila. Thank you, Attila Desics. Daniel Jones, we've got Derek Knowles, we've got Paul Mason, Alex Green, Kjartan Raaen, Alexander Morgan, Betty Biscuit, Compute You Art, and Andrew AB. And I also say thank you from the bottom of my heart to all of you for supporting me through this difficult period of my life, of the country's life, of the life of the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom is entering the palliative care part of its life here, isn't it? It's on its way out, it's circling the drain. We had a good run though, didn't we? We had a good innings. No one can say that we didn't make the most of the cards we were dealt, until we decided that we had cards that we didn't actually have. We had all aces, and the rest of the world just didn't realize it. And now we've looked at what we've got, and basically we haven't even got a pair of twos. Okay, did you see Nicola Sturgeon's speech? No, Charlie, I think I read something about it. I didn't know it was a speech. I thought it was an interview, but she was talking about the fact that the Scottish independence is inevitable. Inevitable is inevitable. I think she's right. And if they do really well in the election next, is it March? When's the election? It's pretty soon. I think that, the idea of them having another referendum in the autumn isn't that out of the zone of reality. Because, and I've said this before, it's not about Boris Johnson having a 78-seat majority or whatever he's got these days. It's more about the fact that that to stop it, it's more about the fact that America and the EU are going to be very, very much putting pressure on Boris Johnson's government to have the referendum. I don't want to say allow them to. We're going to allow you to have a referendum over your self-determination now that we're forcing you out of the EU against your will. I think that the way that the cards have been played by fate, with Biden going to be president, and also Biden possibly not having control of the Senate, which means that the bulk of his presidency will be concerning foreign matters, which he doesn't have to get permission from the Senate to do what he wants, which I've always complained about. I always thought that was annoying. I thought that was a bit wrong. But in this circumstance where we're fighting COVID-19, we're also fighting global climate change. Yeah, we need someone to lead. We need someone to lead quite desperately. I think that he's going to do a really good job. I was watching John Oliver from a few weeks ago, and I can't believe I missed this episode, but he was talking about the World Health Organization and why Trump has left, or he said they're leaving, they're not paying any money, at the worst possible time, during a global pandemic. He says, right, we're leaving. And the reason being is because America contributes more to the World Health Organization than the other countries. But the reason why is because under Reagan, I think they froze the percentages of what countries paid. And at the time, China was an impoverished basket case. It wasn't the second richest economy in the world, and as a result, third richest. And as a result, it pays a lot less now. But the actual overall amount that is paid to the WHO around the world is less than $2 billion a year. It'd be like, it costs more than that to run a hospital in the US, single hospital. It's like, what? Hey, so that's all it is. And for him to pull out of it when it costs the Americans $500 million a year, which is what a 1/24th, less than 1/24th of the amount we spent on a test and trace app that didn't work. Yay! Okay, so I'm just going to jump into some of the messages here before they run away with me. Pineapple or egg on the gammon? Oh, mate, I don't like pineapple on pizza, you know. And that's going to be controversial. I don't hate it. I don't hate it with a pathological loathing, like some people hate it. And also they hate Marmite, which I don't hate either. But yeah, given the choice, I mean, gammon with pineapple on, it's just, it seems to me like war food, like the food you would eat if there was a war, which is a bit bizarre because obviously you wouldn't grow pineapples in your back garden during a war. It'd be more likely to be potatoes with your gammon. But yeah, it just, I don't know, just doesn't do it for me. What can I say? It just feels really old fashioned, like baby sham or custard or spam. John says in England you can order a beer and a meal, and after the meal order another beer. Yeah, I think so, but they don't want you hanging around too long after eating. So I think you still got to be putting food in your mouth. And you can get another beer, please, and then you can drink it really slowly. I don't know. Tom Monk saying, "Yep, I'm really curious about the Scottish referendum push." Well, it's going to happen. The only thing is that before the 2014 referendum, it did look like Yes were doing quite well in the polls, and they didn't do as well as they looked like they were doing. And also in the polls, it looked like Brexit was going to be defeated. It wasn't. In the polls, it looked like Trump was going to lose against Hillary bigly, and he didn't. And the polls were well out for this election that's just gone. And it's some of the poll people have said, well, we still called it right that Biden won, which they did. They also called all the states right, apart from Florida and North Carolina, which went to Trump and not Biden. But, and this is the big but, I like big buts. They were out in Pennsylvania. They thought that he would have a 7-point lead, and it was less than 1%. That is a massive, massive polling error. And why? I mean, that's something that people are going to pore over for a while. One of the theories is that perhaps it's because people who were more likely to be at home during the pandemic because they could work from home were more likely to vote for Biden. And so there was a huge bias towards people who could work from home because of the pandemic. But that doesn't explain the 2016 election, which was way out as well. I just think that people are liars, and that a lot of people who vote for Brexit, Trump, Johnson, all that jazz, Farage, are liars. There's a higher percentage of liars amongst them. So you ask them a straight question, you say, is the sky blue? And they'll go, no. And they have that. They think they get that thing from. There's a Pixar movie called Inside Out, where it's these little things that live inside this girl's head. And there's a great moment when they're on the train of thought and they knock over a crate, and it's got facts and opinions. I think they're the two things in the crate, and they all get mixed up, and they're like, "Oh, we can never tell these two things apart." And they're a bit like that. So that's what I think. I think they're just fundamentally dishonest people. So when you ask them if they're going to vote Trump, they go no. And then they vote Trump. Right, jump back in. Gaz says, "Oh, thanks, Graham. Nice one. Yes, it's going to be the Graham and Gaz show every Tuesday night at 10 o'clock. Chris Kopek saying, anyone watch George Useless's interview on GMB? Yeah, we were just talking about that, where you're saying a Scotch egg was a substantial meal. He didn't seem to know what the hell he was talking about. And yeah, it was just embarrassing. Every time one of these government ministers go on Good Morning Britain, that it is just such, it is just like the screaming monkey clown car show. It really is. It's just so embarrassing. And the fact that it's being broadcast, that anyone can watch it anywhere in the world, I'm like, oh no, please stop, please stop. It's like having your dad dancing at a wedding, but it's like projected into everyone's home around the world. And you're like, oh, why? Donald Coey says, have you come across Novara Media? They seem to be going after Keir Starmer just because. Well, yeah, I mean, if it's the so-called hard left of Labour, then they're probably working for the Tories by the sounds of things. Although new opinion polls from YouGov saying that Labour on 40%, Conservatives on 37%. But again, I don't trust them. I don't trust people because they're like, yeah, that Boris Johnson, he's done a really bad job with this COVID lark. Oh, yeah, he's really bad. I hate him. I hate him so much. And they're just signing off a check to the Tory party. You have to give them all their money in their will or something. 95 Winston says, good evening, all. Good evening. I'll go from cold sausages. Oh, I hate cold sausage. I hate any food that is supposed to be hot but isn't. We'll have to catch up once I'm back at work. Oh, sorry about that. Well, you could just do the weekly show, and then that wouldn't be so bad, I think. The last but one local elections I remember voting in gave me a choice between Conservative and UKIP. I spoilt my vote. Oh my word. Conservative or UKIP? That is just like, do you want to be boiled alive or do you want to be burnt alive? Up to you. Sugar Free, I like the music at the beginning of Novara live streams. Okay. Hated to hear Biden broke his foot playing his dog. Yeah, he's playing football, wasn't he, or something? And he's broken his foot. I've been there. I broke a foot once. I fell off a chair. It was so cool. I had spent the day in Cyprus doing adventure stuff. That week I'd been paragliding, I'd been mountain biking, I'd gone scuba diving, I'd done the jet boot thing, flyboarding, where you go up on the jet boots, done all that. And then the night of the rap, because of the rap party, I stood up on my chair to give a speech to thank the crew, and I fell off the chair. Not my finest hour. Anyway, I'm with you on the who pullout. I would say I couldn't believe it, but with Trump, you can believe anything. He's such a dickhead. Well, in his head, it's all a zero-sum game. You either, as John Oliver put it, you're either fucking someone or being fucked. And he can't see the nuance in anything. He can't understand why having a global organization which tackles disease, and the WHO famously was the organization that eradicated smallpox, which I think, check up on the stats here, I think it killed, until it was completely eradicated at the end of the 70s, due to massive efforts by the WHO, in which they went to every single house in India and knocked on the door. Before then, in the 20th century, I think 300 million people had died from smallpox. And yeah, Trump wants to destroy it because he just doesn't understand it, because he's thick as pig shit. But he's rich. And yeah. Attila says, I love Marmite, but not in pizza. Yeah, Attila, I'm with you on that, right? Also, right, don't put carrots on pizza. Me and Catherine were in Liverpool a few years ago on Global Scouse Day, which also happens to be my birthday. What a coincidence. And one of the 200 venues that was serving Scouse that day, were doing Scouse pizzas, and it had carrots on it. It just didn't work. Just don't do it. Just no. Anyone hear about the Philip Green situation? So this is the collapse of the Arcadia Group. So Philip Green is this tyrant billionaire who runs these companies into the ground and then runs off on his £100 million yacht into the sun. And that's what he's going to do now. So they own Topshop, I think, and a few other famous Dorothy Perkins, maybe, high street stores. But the problem is, all of these high street stores are just being undercut massively by the lack of a level playing field, because the rates they have to pay are sky high to have a city centre premises. Meanwhile, Amazon doesn't have them, doesn't give a fuck, has a warehouse outside Milton Keynes where they distribute everything, where they pay peanuts to the local farmer for the land that they bought. And jobs are good. That's a level playing field, according to the Tories, but that's also Amazon do their level best not to pay as much tax as they should. It's a lot easier when you're an international company. Tom Monk, how much has this is from Johan? How much has Trump gold trips cost? I think it means golf trips. Yeah, hasn't he had something like over 256 times at the golf course? And he has to have all the people around him, all his security, over 130 of whom contracted COVID off him, which is nice. Donald Carey said, I just had YouTube push Novera Media on my feed, so I was not sure where I stood. So Momentum Mouthpiece. I don't know. I don't know much about them. I don't want to say they're evil if I haven't done my research. I'll come back tomorrow. Yes, rice pudding, Gaz Riley. Rice pudding and curry with raisins in it. Who puts raisins in a curry? What's wrong with you people? Tom says, Graham was in Scotland just before the 2014 referendum. Mostly in Edinburgh, though. Most people I spoke with were all gung-ho about leaving the UK. Which is surprising, actually, because Edinburgh is quite an English city. There's lots of English peoples there. What actors do I want to see in a film about Brexit? I don't want to see a film about Brexit. Sorry, Charlie. No. See, one of the problems with casting Benedict Cumberbatch as Dominic Cummings in that Channel 4 movie that they made, Brexit, the Uncivil War, was that because of the connotations of Benedict Cumberbatch being Sherlock, being Doctor Strange, it kind of came across as in, oh, this man's an eccentric genius, when he's not. He's just another public school chancer like the rest of them, and he's just making it up as he goes along, like you and me. It only makes sense in hindsight. That's the story of everyone's life. Donald Cowie says the only polling got it right were for each state college. Yeah. Well, they got 48 out of 50 right there. So I wish the people, and they got the fact that he won. They got the fact that Biden won because he said he's got such a big margin. Even if we do mess up as bad as we did in 2016, he'll still win. They messed up as bad as they did in 2016. They messed up even worse this time. They were 5 percentage points out last time. They were 7 this time overall. I wish people in England could vote in the Scottish referendum to help them out. Yeah, I was thinking like renting myself a flat somewhere like in Aberdeenshire just for next year, so I can put a vote in. Because the quicker that Scotland leaves, right, the quicker England rejoins the EU. Or Wangland, whatever we decide to call it. Johan says, I think the polling error is because not that many landlines and it breaks up the results. You have to apply to be part of the results. Yeah. They're supposed to accommodate for this, though, aren't they? They're supposed to be quite clever and have algorithms. Oh, the algorithm. Talking of algorithms, if you want to give me a thumbs up, it'll improve the algorithm, whatever that means. But please give me a thumbs up. That'd be great if you can. Miriam Margles in a wig as Boris. That's good. Chris Kopak says, they are, mate. Aaron Bastani is an utter moron. That's a goodie, sugar-free. Joe Brand in a wig, I guess. Donald Curry says, read Joe Biden did his foot playing fetch with his pet dog, Major Biden. Tom Monk says, the number on 1031 was... the number on 1031 was $141 million, and the taxpayers pay that mostly to Trump. Wow. So I think that's the golf question. $141 million. That's outrageous, isn't it? Marmite chocolate, total yummy. Scouse pizza, I've never heard of it. Big thumbs down for me. Yeah, I dove on that grenade, so you don't have to. Don't worry about it, Gaz. Jim Bob, Navarra are awesome and don't deserve the hard left tag. Okay, all right, Jim Bob. I'm sorry. I just said if they are, anti-Starmer, hard left, they're probably doing the work of the Tories or being paid by the Tories. Who knows? Okay. The best pizza ever. Will the high street end up being owned by another douchebag, Mike Ashley? Is he the one who owns Next? Who's the one who owns Next who voted for Brexit? Don't like him. Alex Morrison, I think he sold BHS to Dominic Chappelle for £1. Chappelle has just gone to jail. Best £1 he ever spent, I guess not. Best pizza I ever had was in Liverpool, believe it or not. Where was that, Gaz? Tell us where your best pizza was. We need to know. Put the politics on the back burner for a moment. Let's talk pizza. Tories only like competition when they have their own head start. True. Gary Busey as Boris in Brexit movie. He's insane enough. I didn't realise the golf club about Nick Frost as either Aaron Banks or Mark Francois. No, you can have Nick Frost as Mark Francois. We like Nick Frost. I think you get. We hate Aaron Banks and we hate Mark Francois. I'm not going with Nick Frost for that. It needs to be someone that we hate. It needs to be all those actors who are just terrible. Because that's what they are, aren't they? Most Tory MPs, they're bad actors in more ways than one. Right, Colin Firth would be Starmer. Yeah, I could see that. Tories only like competition when they're. Oh, read that one. I wish the messages came up better on this. I'm gonna have to have words with YouTube. Alex Green just says Wankerland, which I love. Is that the name of the film or the name of Britain once we leave? Tom Monk says Trump came up saying he was not take the president's salary, but he made tons more playing golf and paying himself. Bitcoin hits new price all-time high today. I'd rather have that than a sinking GDP. Okay, right. We're not going to do the Bitcoin. We're not going to go down that. If we start going down there, I will be muting people. Okay, we're not discussing the B word. We can discuss Brexit, but not the other B word that people get very, very excited about on the internet. Okay, because otherwise, I'll say what I really think of it, and that will be awful. Chris Kopak says, I was dead against Scotland leaving, but now I get it. Best to jump a sinking ship. Yes, same with me. In 2014, I had Scottish friends who wanted to leave. I had Scottish friends who wanted to stay. I had Scottish friends who lived in England and couldn't vote. And I had English friends who lived in Scotland and they could vote. It was bonkers. But yeah, it upset a lot of people. It ripped apart families and friendships and things like that. Not to the extent that Brexit has, but I think now people are coming around to the idea that, well, look, we're better off being a small country. This is Scotland I'm talking about. Better off being a small country in the EU, like Latvia, Estonia, Lithuania, who are doing really, really well, all of them, than being this part of this worldwide international pariah that is the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Did you ever have deep dish Chicago style pizza? Yes, of course I have. Nightcrawler pizza on Slater Street. Gaz, how drunk were you? Darren says Mike Ashley owns Sports Director Newcastle FC. Don't know his standing on brevity though. Brexity there. Sports Direct. They got into the news for all the wrong reasons, didn't they? With their staff, I think, over telling them they had to come in during the first lockdown because they regarded themselves as an essential business. We essentially needed £5 umbrellas that break the second time you use them. Yeah. You have to have Danny DeVito as Mark Francois. Yeah. I think have that. Danny DeVito as Mark Francois. Or, I don't know. But I like Danny DeVito. I suppose you can like an actor and they can still play an unlikable character, I guess. What's going to happen to the Isle of Man? Well, nothing really. The Isle of Man is not part of the EU as far as I'm aware, so it doesn't make any difference to it either way. Graham, Nova do deserve the hard left hand. They hate Starmer and they are communists. You should check it out for yourself. You've put me off now, Chris. I don't want to check him out for myself because it seems like a huge waste of my time to just go and give a penny to some people who just don't. I mean, I don't know. I don't love Starmer. I'm not like in a Starmer fan club. I'm not going to scream and shout if someone says something mean about him, like the Corbynites do about Corbyn. But I'm willing him to have some success. Like I originally, in the beginning, before the Brexit vote, when he did absolutely fuck all, I didn't vote for him. I voted for Andy Burnham. Oh God, that would have been so much better. But I would have. I gave Corbyn the benefit of the doubt to start with. The first year or so of his leadership, if that, I thought, well, how bad could it be? Whereas with Boris Johnson and Trump, I knew how bad they were going to be. They never got any kind of benefit of the doubt. they were just awful from the start, and it was really apparently obvious to anyone paying attention just how fucking awful they were. But yeah, I was willing to give Corbyn the benefit of the doubt until he massively fucked up, and I'm willing to give Starmer the benefit of the doubt until he does the same thing. David says, I have just sacrificed my jar of Marmite to join your Patreon. You can now afford a bigger soapbox. Thanks, David. Your jar of Marmite. Oh, man, I'm going to send you a jar of Marmite, I think. I'm sure they're doing some promotion. I'll write to them and say, I've got this guy, David, from Wales, and he really likes my show, and you should send him Marmite. And they probably would. Darren says, is it the right decision for Scott Starmer to whip for abstention on vote? I don't think he should whip. I do not think he should whip. I think he should... It honestly depends what the deal is. Because if it's a deal that the Tories are happy with, it's going to get through anyway. It's not worth pissing people off by voting for it with them. Like as if, job well done, guys. That's a great deal you've got there. Now that you're the only people to have gone to DFS and bought a sofa for full price, you idiots. But if the deal comes back and the ERG are spitting their dummies out of their collective respective prams, I think that might be a situation where he has to stand in and say, right, this has to get through because the damage that no deal will do will be absolutely massive. But that's all been undermined by dickheads like Theresa May saying, oh, there's no problem with no deal, it'll be fine. And wankers outside Parliament saying, let's go WTO. And I went to the WTO and had conversations with people who work there. And they said, yeah, fucked. You're so fucked. You don't even know how fucked you are. And that's not a direct quote, by the way. And basically, yeah, if we go through a no deal, we're in so much trouble. And when you see people like Robert Jenrick on the TV going, oh, it'd be all right, because what can happen is we can put tariffs on stuff. It's like, what? It's like someone going out of business, because no one's buying their stuff anymore. And that they go, oh, do you know what we should do? We should higher our prices. We'll put them up by 35%. That'll get people buying stuff. I was like, what? You're going to go to HSBC with that business plan? You expect to get them you to give you some money? Jesus Christ. They're going to get a mortgage and saying, hey, I'm thinking of buying this house so I can burn it down to the ground. Ooh, did I say it out loud? Jesus Christ. So Jim Bob's shouting, that isn't me. Oh God, I'm not getting into this. Don't have a fight. Calm down. We're all friends here. Don't have a fight. I don't even know who these people are. Next time I need an eye test, I know what to do. I missed the beginning of that joke. Specs 357 says, sesame snaps and a cup of tea. Ah, brilliant. Alex Marvison said, are you talking about being bought and paid for? Sir, the bought and paid for Sir Keir Starmer. Yeah, yes, he's a sir for services to the legal profession, and also for giving free legal advice during the McLibel trial. Not to McDonald's, not to McDonald's, because that's a Tory trick. No, to the plaintiffs who were trying to take on one of the biggest companies in the world for telling the truth and being told off for telling the truth. Sugar Free says, Andy Burnham's really gone up in my estimation through COVID. I always thought he was a bit too nice. Sugar Free, about 2009, there was a Hillsborough memorial service in Anfield, and Andy Burnham was there. I think it was 2009, and the crowd started chanting justice for the 96, and he you could see he thought, I've got to do something about this, and he did. And the Hillsborough inquiry, which in 2016 came down with the unlawful verdict, unlawful killings for everyone who died in Hillsborough was monumental, and he had a big hand in that, and I always will credit him for doing that. I think he's a good guy, and he knows what he's doing. Obviously, it's just still a terrible shame that duck and field creep is still walking free when he should be behind bars for the rest of his fucking life. But that's another show. I went off politics in 1973. Yeah, so did I. This is what I hate the most about Brexit. It pulled me back into politics. I didn't give a fuck. I honestly just watched stuff on the TV now and again. I didn't watch the news that often. I'd like to keep abreast of what's happening in the world, but I wasn't obsessive about it. I never went on polling sites. I never went on marches. I never went to rallies. I never had to deal with speaking to people in different political parties and banging my head against the wall. I never had to do any of that. I was just living my life, having fun, thinking maybe when I'm an old crotchety old bastard, I might decide to get into politics then, because it seems something that old crotchety bastards do. But until then, I was having fun. I mean, I lived on an island in Panama, for fuck's sake. What have you done to me, Brexit? Anyway, Attila says if the entire opposition abstain, they could sit back and watch the Tories fighting like rats in a sack. Yes. But if they don't go for the deal, then the no deal consequences are going to be much worse for all of us. So it's a difficult one. It's a tricky one. I think it depends on the deal. If I was Keir Starmer, I wouldn't make the decision until the day I've read the deal, and I'll give my assessment. And it would be basically, if the ERG are up for it, then don't vote for it. You don't need to. They've got the votes, doesn't matter. And you know what? It'll be a shit deal anyway, because they're happy to vote for it. If the ERG object and say we're going to vote against this, then without the Labour votes, it's not going to get through, and we'll have no deal. It's one hell of a political deal. Conundrum, not deal, conundrum. That's the word I was looking for. Much longer and more complicated. Andreas Wolf says, a deal is better than no deal. It's still hard to vote for something you don't want. Yeah, Andreas, yeah, exactly what I just said. I agree. I can't say this. Dias E. Pamo. I'm from Schaffhausen, Switzerland. I always want to ask a British person, what does a whip mean in politics? Okay, so a whip is an instruction from your party that you're part of to take part in a vote. So if there's no whip, there's a free vote. If you're in Parliament, you can vote, whatever. If it's a one-line whip, generally speaking, it's if you are in Parliament, we want you to vote along the party line. So it's either yes or no, eyes to the left or nose to the right, or the way around. Essentially, if it's a one-line whip, it's just an expression, which means that the obligation to the MPs in the party is like just sort of, if you're there, can you vote? A two-line whip is if you're in London, if you can get to the vote, if you're there, would really like your help on this. Can you please vote on this? A three-line whip basically means get your ass to London, get in the House of Commons, bloody vote the way we want you to vote, because if you don't, we will either withdraw the whip, which is an expression which means kick you out the party, which is what's happened to Jeremy Corbyn, or we will remove some parliamentary party privileges that you have. So you might get money off vouchers for BHS or something, they'll be taken away. You might lose your staff. If you're a minister, so you're actually part or in the shadow cabinet, so you're actually high up in the party, you might lose your position. You'll still be an MP, but you might lose your position. You might lose the whip, and then you won't be an MP at all. So famous three-line whips, Jeremy Corbyn in February of 2017, after the referendum, he put down a three-line whip for the Labour Party, the opposition party, to vote with the Conservatives to enact Article 50, and therefore without any amendments, without any provisos, without any safeguards, and they voted with the Conservatives, who had a majority. They didn't need Labour's support to get it through. And yeah, it was an absolute disgrace that he did that. And so now we're in a situation where it's kind of similar in a little bit. No, it's not similar at all, actually. There has to be a deal, and it has to be agreed before 31st of December, or there's no deal. And that is actually enshrined in British law now, because we're idiots and we like artificial. We like it in films, you know, where they go, oh, we've got 10 minutes to defuse this bomb. Why? Oh, it's just an arbitrary amount of time so we can have a ticking clock. That's what we've done to ourselves. But unfortunately, in this situation, we're the kind of desperate party. We're a lot smaller than the EU. We've got a population of 66 million, whereas the EU is 450 million. We've got a much smaller economy than the EU. We're about 2.6, 2.7 trillion dollars GDP, whereas the EU is about 18 trillion. Dollars GDP, Jesus. It's like so much bigger. So yeah, that's what a whip is. It's basically an instruction from your party to vote for a particular party policy that's being debated in the House of Commons, and it's an instruction to vote one way or the other. And the more lines under the whip, the more crucial it is that you vote with the party. Okay, so Jan says the only good thing with Brexit is that you get away from EU farm politics. I'm not sure about that, because the problem is that a lot of British farmers rely on the two massive subsidies they get from the Common Agricultural Policy and the fact that the EU doesn't put tariffs on agricultural produce sold and produced within the EU, that otherwise they wouldn't make any money whatsoever. If you're a cereal farmer, you could have massive, massive fields of cereal, but you're only going to make about £2,000 profit a year if you don't have any subsidies. And the EU doesn't give subsidies because they want farmers to sit around doing nothing. They give the farmers subsidies so we have cheap food. So even the poorest in society can afford food. That's the plan. But what's going to happen next year is in a month's time, is that those tariffs are going away if we don't get a deal, and the agricultural subsidies are going away, and suddenly loads of farmers are going to be out of business, and our food, the price of our British-made food, is going to go through the roof. Anyone buying it from abroad, and the food made abroad is going to go up in price coming in, the good quality stuff from the EU, and we will be forced, because a nation will only survive for a week without food, if that, we'll be forced to look for other suppliers like the US, Australia, Argentina, all the food miles that go with that, and the fact that they have a much lower level of standard when it comes to food. And the thing is, if we let that food in, low quality food, then it's very hard for us to export our own food to the EU, because they're like, well, how do we know you haven't just bought this from America, repackaged it, and trying to sell it into the EU now as our standards, when we don't know what your standards are because you inspect your own places. So yeah, it's going to be very difficult for farmers. Let me just jump forward into the comments a bit. They made the Great British Bake Off, although what they had to do with baking defeats me. What? Oh, the walnut whips. Yeah, they had to make them in the Bake Off. I'm still spitting about Lottie being thrown off, and then Hameen. What the hell? For Laura, she was actually incredibly rubbish. But because this is the failure. This is another sort of failure of democracy, isn't it? She was always the second worst. She was always the second worst, so she never got voted off. It's like, what? Anyway, right. I stopped by a wall and someone whipped my nuts. Oh, Patrick, that's very painful. I'm very sorry to hear that. Darian says, if you throw a walnut in its shell at a window, the glass won't break. I'm going to take your word on that, mate. Unless it's, I don't know, the window of a Tory MP surgery, maybe. No, that was a joke. That was a joke. But what about all the fish that the UK public will eat? It's good for you and it'll be really cheap. Well, it won't be, because here's another problem that we have. We don't eat a lot of the fish that we have in our waters anyway. And fish has a limited shelf life, and you have to freeze it. And we don't have the storage space. It's something that I've talked about a lot in podcasts and Three Blokes in the Pub and all that in days gone by. The amount of storage we have in the UK is fairly limited. And so what they do, instead of thinking in terms of big warehouses, they think, let's do it just in time. So this produce, these commodities are turning up at the supermarket as they're needed, and they spend 3 days on the shelf. And in those 3 days, they've got these clever computer algorithms to suss out how many lettuces they like to sell in a week and put that exact amount out. If there's a rush on because of COVID, then you might have disruption, but generally speaking, the system works really well. And effectively, what you're doing is you are providing space for things to be stored in people's homes. So people buy frozen fish, put it in their freezer for 3 months, no problem. The idea of it sitting in a freezer for 3 months somewhere in a warehouse outside, where should I go through this one? Altrincham, is insane, because you got all that space, got all the power that it will cost to keep the fish frozen for 3 months. And yeah, you're talking about feeding 66.6 million people. It's no small feat. And so along with the space we're going to need for the lorries, the space we're going to need for the containers that we need to look at, the space we're going to need for the queues in the passport when you're trying to just leave the country or come back into the country, all of those things all add up. And then you've got on top of it the storage, the extra storage we're going to need, so we make sure that the supply lines aren't too disrupted. And that storage just doesn't exist. We haven't built it. We haven't built the infrastructure to deal with Brexit. So because fish is dearer than meat. Well, what about deer? I haven't seen any TV for over a year and haven't missed it. Yeah, you haven't missed much. Sugar Free said, if there are food riots, they will use the Coronavirus Act to arrest everyone. Yeah, that's a point, Sugar Free. How long does the Coronavirus Act last? I thought it was, is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Is it 2 years from March? Yeah, that's going to be a problem. But if 1 million people turn up in London, they don't have the police, they don't even have the army to deal with that many people. So, and if they did start trying to arrest people, that is escalation. Imagine the footage of the police arresting a pensioner who's peacefully protesting outside Parliament. Yeah, that's going to go down well in the Tory shires, isn't it? Alex Morrison says, I would have to drive 30 miles to find a Tory MP to throw a walnut at their window. That's good, that, Alex. I wouldn't have to drive that far, because I'm in Durham here. I'm in the city of Durham area at the moment, which means I want to say Claire Foy, but she played the Queen in the first 2 seasons of the Queen. No, Mary Foy is my Labour MP here. But yeah, some of the other constituencies around here, most notably Sedgefield, which was Tony Blair's old constituency. That's how safe it was. It was the leader, it was the Prime Minister's own constituency just 15 years ago. And now it's a Tory seat. My God. Patrick Baker, I work in a food warehouse. We've got about 3 days supply of most products, so long as there's no panic buying. Lorries drop stock in 24/7. Yeah, Patrick, exactly. That's what I'm saying. If there's disruption to the lorries coming in, you're going to have to store things for longer. You're going to have to store more of it in order to make sure that people can still buy the stuff as and when they need to. And just in time is fucked. It is absolutely fucked by Brexit, because the idea of just in time is there's no borders. You just drive through. They might scan your van for drugs and contraband, refugees hiding in the back, but they're not going to stop you and make you fill out a form. And just the process of, even if it's a really simple form of doing that, created the other day a 5-mile tailback on the M20. That was just for the Channel Tunnel, I think, and just for trucks. So yeah, it's going to be an absolute shit fest. And people thinking, oh, you know, how bad could it be? Have a look at how they've dealt with COVID. That's how bad it will be. But worse, because COVID is something where every country in the world has had to deal with this shit, whereas we're going to be the only country in the world to actively destroy our own economy overnight for no good reason and put barriers in the way to trade and just regress from free trade in that Trumpian aesthetic ideal. Sorry, not aesthetic. Trumpian ideal to, I don't know, stand on our own 2 feet, which is nonsense, because no country in the fucking world stands on its own 2 feet. Do you know why? Because of this. See this phone here, which is happily recording my sound, I hope. That phone has got coltan in. All right? There's some mineral. It's in like all of our electronics, like stuff like smartphones and smart TVs and all that kind of stuff, laptops. And that mineral is only found in a handful of places around the world. Most of it is in the Democratic Republic of Congo. We don't have that. We don't have stuff that we can make steel out of, not high quality steel. We have to import it. We haven't got the bauxite that we need to make aluminium. We haven't got the gold we need. We haven't got the silver we need. We haven't got the stuff that we actually need, the base stuff, in order to make all the stuff that we enjoy and use in everyday life. We haven't got, we might have lithium, actually. This is interesting. So down in the old, I think the old copper mines or something in Cornwall, or tin mines, I think it was the tin mines, that there might be, because of the ocean coming in and leaving salt behind and lithium deposits over the centuries, there might be a lot of lithium there, which is good for batteries, which we might need in the future with renewable power. But yeah, there's so much stuff that we can't make ourselves, and so no country can stand on its own 2 feet. And then the kicker with this is, even in World War II, when the population of the UK was a lot smaller, it was only about 40 million, I think, rather than 66 million, we couldn't feed ourselves. We never fed ourselves. And that's why we had Dig for Victory. That's why we had the transatlantic convoy coming over with food that needed to be protected. Obviously, it came over with armaments and guns and shit, but it did come over with food from America and Canada in order to keep the Britain fed. And that was a huge part of the Nazis' plan, was to disrupt those convoys in order to blow them up so that Britain would be starved because we couldn't feed ourselves. And that was in the 1940s. Okay, so move on. We've got loads more people. The cities are much bigger. We're all on top of each other and transforming the land. And don't get me wrong, I'm an optimist. I believe that it could be done, but it won't be pretty. If you like looking at the British countryside and going, oh, isn't that nice? Fields, yeah, hedgerows. Forget about that. Barbed wire fences and lots of polytunnels. Polytunnels as far as the eye can see. That will be the Brexit legacy that we're leaving for our children. Eventually, we will be able to push our food amount that we grow up, but we're never going to be able to. I don't think we're going to be able to grow things like pineapples in levels that is decent to us, or chocolate, which only seems to grow in little tiny trees that live under the shadows of big trees in the tropics. I mean, okay, we could try using science, but good luck with that. And a nation without chocolate is not a happy nation, I swear. Okay, so okay, you actually noticed the intelligence between. Oh my god. Okay, I'm not talking about this other channel. I don't know about them. Leave me alone. Patrick Baker. We have no extra storage space in the warehouse. We have to rely on deliveries. Or Sainsbury's is going to have to find more warehouses. Exactly. Then Patrick's right. The warehouses have not been built. They have not been built. So there's nowhere to put this stuff, waiting for you to buy it in 3 months or 6 months' time. And you don't have enough room in your house for all the stuff to keep you going for 6 months. It's a logistics nightmare. Hope you got toilet paper. Why everyone went for that escapes me. Yeah, I didn't get the toilet paper thing. It was like this huge panic. It's like, what do we buy? What do we buy? I don't know, pasta. Let's get pasta. Toilet paper. Let's get toilet paper. And it just seemed very not. But I was talking to a journalist from the Independent the other day about the shortages that are going to come up, and he asked me if I had stockpiled or panic bought, I guess would be a better way of putting it, at the beginning of COVID. And I said no, because that wasn't a supply problem, that was a demand problem. There were just too many people wanted too much stuff all at once. But the supply network was unaffected by all this. The logistics were unaffected. So it was always going to be a short-term problem. We'll get more bog roll eventually. People will go to the supermarket, oh, there's no bog roll. They'll come back the next week, there'll be bog roll. One per customer. Okay, I've got it now. Whereas Brexit is a supply problem. And that is just a whole different cluster of fuck. Smash the like, says Jim Bob, in capital letters. Smash the like, please. Can everyone just hit the like, the thumbs up if you can? If you're logged in to YouTube, you should be able to give me a little like, which apparently helps the little algorithms out, because they're so hard done by, the algorithms. I blame Dominic Cummings. Niall Fox says, if you want to stop the BMW line as just-in-time supplier, you get billed 20,000 euro per hour of delay. That's insane. Well, no, that's true. I was on a ship going up through the Suez Canal from the Red Sea to the Med, and I actually got off in Suez, but the ship had been delayed. And to be fair, the ship had come from like bloody Hong Kong or somewhere. You know, it had a bit of a voyage, and it had gone through Somali waters, and because of the situation in 2009, which was the same year that the Maersk Alabama was taken by pirates in the film Captain Phillips, if you've seen that. As a result of that, ships were stopping in Sri Lanka, and they were joining a convoy, and they would go in convoy to avoid any attacks from pirates. Well, be better positioned to fend off any attacks from pirates, and waiting for the convoy to assemble itself, which is it's a bit of, again, a logistics nightmare. And they have a gunship at the front and one at the back, and they went through, and it made them 1 day late. It made them 1 day late to go through the Suez Canal. And this is just one ship. It's just one ship, and it cost them an extra $27,000 just because of that 1 day delay for paying for the pilotage through the Suez Canal. So you need someone to come on board your ship and take you through the canal. It's called pilotage, I think. And yeah, they had to pay an extra $27,000 because they were 1 day late, and it wasn't their fault. So yeah, just in time logistics. We're throwing it all out the window. We're just going, yeah, fuck this shit. We don't need it. And you're like, no, you really do. You really, really do. It's like reading about some mad bloke in India who says, oh, I've lived all my whole life without food, and going, oh, that's brilliant. That I'm going to try and live without food because I've read about it in here and it'll be great. And you're like, no, you can't. It's scientifically impossible. You can't live without food. You're not a plant. You can't photosynthesize. Jesus. Okay, we have materials to make garden sheds and gnomes. What more do we need? Says Specs 357. Good point. Chubai says, if diesel prices rise due to a drop in the pound, then fishing gets even more expensive. A lot of fuel is needed to drag a net. That's true. Well, diesel prices actually as well are going to go up, because I think that if you're using fuel on a fishing boat, you either pay less tax or you don't pay any tax on it, because you get a special EU deal, essentially. So that the price of diesel for these small fishing ships is going to go up anyway. And then, yeah, they're going to need more. Oh my God. It's just, yeah, like I said, keep saying, it's a babushka doll of shit. Not sure you want to mind that. It's rather dangerous. What? That was a nice episode of BBC Click on. There was a nice episode on BBC Click about lithium deposits. Fantastic. The big place for lithium at the moment is the Salar de Uyuni, which is in, I think it's south. Yeah, I always get confused in the southern hemisphere. It's south of La Paz, the capital of Bolivia, and these amazing salt flats. And if it's been raining, you get this effect where you've got 1 inch of water, like perfectly still water, stretching out for miles in every direction. So as you walk out, if you're watching someone walking out, it looks like they're walking on a mirror, and it perfectly reflects the sky. It's absolutely surreal. But that's a huge place for lithium deposits, and it's one of those things that people who are against the environmental movement, because they can make money from selling fossil fuels, will often cite as the lack of raw materials and the fact that it costs so much to get these raw materials in place. And yeah, lithium is one of those raw materials that is involved in rechargeables, renewables, that isn't particularly involved in the fossil fuel industry. But in any situation like that, you're going to get these sort of trade-offs. The maddest thing that I ever read was some dickhead who had put together some kind of proposal that actually, if you bought a titanium bike, you would cost more because of the rarity of the metal and the cost of it being mined and then made into a bike and all the different things that you need to put together to make a bike. it would actually cost the environment more than driving a car for a year. And it was bollocks. It was just absolute bollocks. It's what like on a level with thinking that smoking is going to clean out your lungs. It's something that on the surface you think, oh yeah, there might be something in that because titanium is quite rare, and yeah, you have to put these things together. But I'm sorry, a bike, it's got like one moving fucking part, the the wheels and the pedals. That's it, with a chain between them. That's it. You're talking about an internal combustion engine. It's got over 100 moving fucking parts in it. Give me a break. UK only has money laundering by the City of London as trade service. Yes, it is. We are heading to be the money laundering capital of the world. Great. I do worry about the role models that our children are growing up with. People like Haiti Hopkins and Lawrence Fox and Boris Johnson. These absolute scumbags. Like Boris Johnson is a man who cheated on his wife, cheated on his mistress, and cheated on the woman he was cheating on his mistress with. That's how low he is. It's like, I was talking about this, wasn't I? About Inception. It's just like these extra levels of going down and down and down. And he's right at the bottom. And if you said to a Tory voter, would you like your child to turn out just like Boris Johnson? They'll probably say yes. And they'll really mean no, especially if they're a woman. I can't see any woman wanting her son or daughter to turn out like Boris Johnson because he is an irredeemable shite. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up there because it is 11 o'clock and I've been reacting on for an hour. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining me. Chubba is just saying quickly, no elements destroyed recycling the batteries. Nearly all lead acid batteries have been recycled since they were put in cars. There you go. Okay, good. Elements not destroyed. Good. Is that good? I don't know. I don't want lead. Car batteries are really heavy. Lithium batteries are much lighter. Okay, right. So thank you very, very much for joining me. This is the last week of Hughes at 10. And I'll probably do a weekly show called Hughes at 10. But this is the last week of my nightly 10 o'clock fireside chats without a fire. If you do want to support me, I've put the link at the top, like I said, to Patreon. It's patreon.com/thatgingerscouser. And if you could just sponsor me a little bit of money. It doesn't have to be much, but if a lot of you do it, then that'll give me enough money to spend on paying for the platform. So it's just like a service provider thing that lets you go out on different platforms at once. And that would be great because I love doing these and I don't mind doing it for nothing, but I don't want it to cost me to do it. Do you know what I mean? Okay, right. So thank you. Thank you to Charlie. Thank you to Christopher. Thank you to Daffyd. Thank you to Jim Bob. Thank you to Sugar Free and Colin and Andy. And it's just up to me now to say hello, good evening, thank you, and goodbye.